For NC State women's basketball, when the going gets tough, the tough might just be the Naismith Player of the Week.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Monday show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Sign up today, bet just $5, and if that hits, you're $150 in bonus bets richer. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. Happy Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, Aziaha James is one of the best players in the country. We knew this. NC State women's basketball fans have known this for quite some time. Two unbelievable performances earned her the Naismith Player of the Week in all of women's college basketball. Another ranked win for the squad that took place on Sunday, right before the Super Bowl, a 23-point drubbing of the best offensive team, not just in the ACC, but in the country, the Florida State Seminoles. What a week for Wes Moore. What a week for NC State women's basketball.
I don't know if we have ever seen Big Za have a run like this since Boss Man D-Lo was hot. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that is I think this feels so different from other women's basketball seasons because early we got out to a slow start and people underestimated how good TCU would be. And, you know, we took our L against South Carolina. And it was like, oh, man, like this team is going to have to take some time to figure it out. It seems like things have gotten figured out. I mean, boy, Aziaha James, being who she is, the woman that you are, Aziaha James, going out there absolutely cooking defenses off the catch, off the dribble, and then you get Zoe Brooks, the master of everything. She can do a little bit of everything, just finding ways time after time after time. And I'm going to tell you what, Zam Jones, why you make that young lady fall like that? Why did you make her touch earth like that going in the half? She is probably sitting there thinking, oh, I'm defending this short load. She probably a little quick or whatever, but I'm going to be all right. We finna go into halftime anyway. She only got so much time to do something with the ball. That young lady touched earth. Whenever you find yourself bear crawling on a basketball court, bear crawling on hardwood, young lady, get up. I'm going to tell you what. Kill the trigger. Wow. Trigger, double, making it happen. This team is just so different because it comes in so many unexpected ways. You really don't know where it's coming from. And I know you're thinking, how is that different than any other Wes Moore coach team? Because this team, it's coming from very young players at a high clip. It's coming from true freshmen at a high clip. It's coming from true sophomores, and you're just like, what is happening? And of course, Saniya Rivers defensively, because I think she's the one that gets lost in all of this.
Yeah.
The job that she did on Latson, oh my God. I start like defensive teach tape, and I'm not joking. You literally could turn on teach tape and say, hey, this is what defending a great player looks like. This is what it looks like to say, I'm going with your number one. I'm going to follow them everywhere. Everywhere they go, I go. I'm right here with them. Hey, friend, how you doing? Oh, you think those screens will save you? You merely adopted the screens. I was born into them. And by the time I went one-on-one ISO, it was just blinding. That's what Saniya Rivers did in this game. And she's a large part of why this team won as well, because, again, you're taking one of ACC's leading scorers and saying, hey, baby, let's go to Alcatraz real quick. Let's go to Guantanamo Bay. Let's go to Rikers Island. How you feel about it? How about that? A long stroll down the rec yard before we go get our commissary. How about it? Because she had that young girl locked up. You know, shout out to this squad because, again, it's literally hard to think about how well you have to play to get one of the highest powered offenses in the nation to only score 31 in the first half. Amazing.
I'm not even sure I have the right words to describe how big of a beatdown this actually was. Florida State is averaging like 80 to 90 points in conference play. In women's college basketball, that's like almost unheard of. They've been killing teams with how often and frequently they're able to score at a high rate of speed. Kenton mentioned Tania Latson, one of the best scorers in all of women's college basketball. And for her to only finish with 23 points, so it sounds a lot, and she was relatively efficient as well, 8 for 19. That's doing a really good job on her, believe it or not. That's a really good job. She's capable of like 40 to 45-point games every single night.
If we just look at her averages, 26 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists on, this is crazy, but it's true, at home at least, 47.5% shooting, 44.7% from 3. That's what she's doing at home. And the NC State Wolfpack were not in Reynolds during this game. They were down there in Tallahassee where, again, Tania Latson is at her most comfortable, and yet things were tough for her.
To go on the road after you had that massive win over Duke and play another ranked team that's playing really well in Florida State, and for NC State to win overall field goal percentage, they tied in three-point percentage. That was 37%, so that's also very efficient. Rebounding, turnovers, defensive rebounds, offensive rebounds, fast break points, points in the paint, blocks, steals, time in the lead of this game, 36 and a half minutes. That is nearly the entire contest. The only thing they did not have the upper hand in is foul shooting. But if you're putting up 97 points and you're winning by 23, least of my concerns. I will keep my mouth shut every single time. This was pure dominance. And you mentioned Tilda Trieger. I would say, in my opinion, that she was probably the MVP of this game. 16 points, 14 boards. Again, she's still learning this position relatively. She's still learning how to be a center when she's a lot more of like a stretch 4, a power forward type of player. For her to go on the road and pull down a double-double in impressive fashion, I don't think it can be understated what a dominant performance it was from Tilda Trieger. And then, of course, you get Aziaha James. Then you get Zoe, probably one of the better games of her young career, 21, 7, and 7. She's only getting better as the season gone on 50% shooting, nonetheless. And a couple weeks ago, I talked about finding out what this team is made of, being that their schedule is going to get a lot harder. Perhaps I'm going to keep saying that because when the going gets tough, they get going. They're playing even better every single week, and Wes Moore is getting the absolute most out of each and every girl on this team. Madison Hayes. Madison Hayes might not light up the stat sheet all of the time, but 14 and 9. I wouldn't exactly call her undersized, but on the court, she has to fight for every rebound that she can get. And her pulling down 9 boards, this is nothing new for her. Bulldog mentality that bleeds in to the rest of this team. I'll say this again because we've said this multiple times. If you're looking for a winning product on the basketball court that wear the red and white from NC State, look no further than this team right now. They are hot as fish grease, as Kenton loves to say. Another ranked win on the road. Kenton, this team cannot lose right now.
Yeah, and you talk about Tilda Trieger and Madison Hayes. I want y'all to think about this. Michaela Timpson of Florida State. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge women's basketball fan. And, like, I enjoy players, even from other teams, who do it the right way, play great brand of basketball. Michaela Timpson is one of those players. She averages 10 rebounds a game. We had 2 players either match or exceed her amount of rebounds in this one. Madison Hayes with 9, tied her. Tilda Trieger with 14, beat her outright. I mean, boy, this group here, what a group. What a group. Because, again, I'm not talking about, these are sometime players, and these are, I would argue, best scoring rebounding duo in the nation, if not one of, in terms of Timpson and Latson. And you kind of made both of them, you made it hard on both of them because you're not going to stop them. We are not going to see a game with Timpson where she's, 2 points, 1 of 18 from the fifth. That's not her. That's not with Latson and what she is. You're never going to see Timpson be completely shut out on the boards. That's not what you're going to do. But if you play your best ball, if you are as fundamentally sound as you can be, and if you are skilled enough, because let's be honest, rebounding is in fact a skill, judging the trajectory of the ball, knowing, all right, this is probably where it's going to go, is a skill as much as it is luck. Having those abilities to reduce their stars to look human, that's more than enough than you could really ask for. So, what a game. What a game from this group. And what a back-to-back sequence of games from Aziaha.
Oh, yeah.
What a back-to-back sequence. Against Duke, absolutely light it up. Oh, we're down. Oh, we're struggling. Oh, they had what was it? We talked about a 20-2 quarter in our favor. I believe we had something like that against us, against Duke. And she says, you know what? I don't like those blues. I don't like those blues. Turn off that Muddy Waters. I don't want to hear no blues. I got it. And then you come into this game and do a very similar thing. What a performance. What a week for NC State as a whole in terms of women's basketball. And again, when they're playing like they have these last two games, the sky is the limit.
Humongous shout out to Aziaha James this past week in 2 games, 58 total points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists on 65% shooting. That is your Naismith Player of the Week. NC State women's basketball has won their last 8 in a row. 15 of their last 16, they have only lost 1 game since November the 27th. They're on a tear right now. They still have more ranked teams on the horizon, but they are playing their best version of basketball right now. Coming up next, we're going to flip the script and talk about the men's weekend out in California. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Monday sponsor is FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on this action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip and you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can always stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or just picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I miss any chances. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to join today. Again, $150 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the joy of victory to the agony of defeat, we now switch gears into our men's basketball team. A 1-point loss on Saturday at the hands of the Stanford Cardinal, now effectively 0-2 on their California trip, previously lost to Cal before the weekend began. This one was a heartbreaker. Again, 74-73. This is a game that NC State actually led for the majority of, although it was relatively close for most of the game. Even spent a lot of time tied in this one. We say this a lot. When you go on the road, it's even tougher to win an ACC game, let alone any other game you have at home. But when you lead for the majority of this game, and this team, we all know they've been going through it. Obviously, they had their players-only meeting after the Cal game, before the Stanford game, looking for answers here. They want to fight for each other, play together, and some way, somehow, try to right the ship. To suffer a 1-point loss against a pretty decent Stanford team, they're probably middle of the pack of the ACC now. Tough to stomach, Kenton.
1-point loss, 10-point loss, 20-point loss, 3-point loss, 4-point loss. You know what all those have in common, Grace?
Loss.
I really don't give a damn. I really don't. Players only meeting, coaches only meeting. I don't care who's meeting. I don't care. You want to know what I do want to see? A post-game celebration. I don't want no more meetings. I want me a celebration.
Ice cream, please.
I was just about to say, I want me some soft serve, please and thank you. This team, the expectations weren't high. We knew when you objectively looked at the run from last year, at best, you could say one of your top 3 weapons that got you to that run, at best, if you say MOC instead of Modiar, one of your top 3 weapons to get you that was coming back. If you sub in Mo instead of MOC, none of your top 3 parts that got you there were coming back. With that in mind, I don't think I've seen a Keats team this bad. I mean, even the Jericho Helms, Darian Sebron team wasn't this bad. By the way, still love me some Jericho Helms. Wherever he is in the world, I hope he's doing well. But this team, man, it's one of the worst cases that can't get right out of this I've ever seen. It really is. Because it's like everything is there. Everything is on the table for you. And time after time again, it's like, we don't really feel like winning. Time after time again, we see the heartbreak of defeat. You know, we see a difference between the Clemson team that puts the dagger in Duke when they've got him down. And don't get me wrong, Clemson let Duke back into the game, but Cooper Flag slipped, luckily enough for them. But in all seriousness, you see the moments and the time where it's like, okay, this is what you're supposed to do against a team like that, as opposed to what we've done all season, where it's like, oh, we might do it. We might do it. Actually, no, we're not. We're not going to do it. It's very disappointing. It's very disheartening. And, at some point in time, at some level, I keep holding out hope that this team is going to turn the corner. It just doesn't seem like, there is no jello ball. There's no swerving and bending in the corner. Whoa, we just are where we are as a team.
For those that have continued to watch this team, it only gets tougher and tougher and tougher. I saw Wolfpack Stats on Twitter posted that this program will actually go a full calendar year between road wins. That is correct. A full 365 between our last road win into this season. What a drastic fall off from the highs that we felt at the very end of last year. As you can probably tell, we're just running out of things to discuss about this team. Obviously, one of the bright spots in Saturday's matchup was Trey Parker, 19 points on 6 of 11, 5 of 8 from beyond the perimeter. We've been banging this drum since even early December. If you're going to lose and you're going to struggle for the remainder of this year, do it with the young guys. And I do know that, relatively, it doesn't matter all that much who does and does not start the game because you're going to rotate in anyway. But I'm not seeing any reason at all that Trey Parker's not starting every single game from here on out, or even getting increased minutes for Paul McNeil. There's no reason not to let your young guys learn trial by fire now. I mean, let's face it here. You're the second worst team in the entire conference. You're only one game ahead of DFL, which is Miami. This is not a situation where there really are any silver linings. We've had some injuries this year, whatever. But that doesn't change the fact that this team cannot find a way to win a basketball game, whether it's at home, whether it's on the road, whether you win the rebounding battle or lose the rebounding battle, whether you're shooting better from the perimeter or not shooting better from the perimeter. They just cannot get out of their own way. And it is so hard. It's reached the point where I genuinely feel really bad for them because you saw an increase in their fight against Stanford. You saw more heart than they've been pouring out over the last couple weeks. They wanted that one badly, and for them to still not get it, brutal. It's absolutely brutal. We've obviously already mentioned that if the season ended right now, they would not be in the ACC tournament. You have to be out of the bottom 3 to get into the tournament. Only 15 of 18 make it. Kenton, I want to walk you back to your first season, NC State football, 2013. 0-8 in conference, 3-9 overall. Do you remember any similar feelings to that this basketball team might be feeling right now, just fighting through it and playing for each other despite not winning?
So that's a very interesting question you pose. I would say no, only because there are a very different set of circumstances.
Sure.
So what do I mean by that, right? In terms of saying no because there were a different set of circumstances, when I came in to NC State, there was still a very clear delineation between like, oh, these are Doran guys, these are OB guys.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, this was, whatever the case may be. And there was no recent major success to have the fans expecting anything, right? Like at that point in time, when Doran took over the program, it was like, 6, somewhere between 5 and 8 wins every year. You're going to go to a bowl game. Not going to be great, but like that's the expectation. That's kind of where you are. As opposed to a situation where you're coming off of the most success that your team has had as a season in over 40 years. When was the last time we won ACC, Grayson?
1987.
87. So nearly 40 years. I apologize, not over 40. Nearly 40 years, most success that you've had. And so you look at this and you say, there's got to be something better. There's got to be something to the effect of, hey, we can be something like that team. This would be the equivalent of NC State going to a New Year's Six bowl and then that coach leaving, and then I come in and we go 4-8. It's like, well, sorry guys, but I mean, same coach, very similar coaching staff, if not the exact same. The group of guys is different, but it's just I wouldn't say that there's the same feeling. I would say that there's the same element of, be prideful. Have some pride about yourself to win these games and still compete, but I would say that's about it.
This team continues to limp down the home stretch, and I do mean literally limp down the home stretch. Another closely contested and heartbreaking 1-point loss. They're going to continue to pick up the pieces and move forward because that is what NC State does. Coming up next, we're going to continue some of our conversation from Friday. The proposal for the naming rights of the AD position was approved. What does this mean for NC State? We'll discuss after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple minutes of our Monday show, furthering our conversation from Friday's show. We spoke last week that NC State had a proposal for the naming rights of the AD position at NC State, and it would be a $5 million opportunity. $3 million of that would go to the endowment to support the position, and $2 million for athletics enhancement. On Friday, the Board of Trustees met, and it was approved. So we said on Friday, and I'll re-emphasize now, if I'm NC State, I would be looking for more things to rename. If someone is willing to pay for it, that is seamless, easy money that you can reinvest right back into the program by getting more people involved. I don't think it should stop at the AD position. Rename the parking lot if that's what it takes. Rename the weight room. Literally anything, any program, anything that can be named should be named. And if you can bring more money into the athletic program, that's always a plus.
Absolutely. Again, this is a step in the right direction. I think we're going in the right direction. Again, don't be too esteemed. Don't overthink this to where you're like, oh, we won't have a patch on our jersey. Will it be aesthetically pleasing? No. Will having a patch on the field be aesthetically pleasing? No. But you know what? It's also not going to be such a detriment to your viewing experience or things like this. Right. How often do you even say athletic director Boo Corrigan as a whole?
Never.
You just say Boo Corrigan. You know why? Because you know that he's the what?
Yes,
athletic director. So you're not going to say, oh, this is the Guggenheim family athletic director of NC State, Boo Corrigan. You're not going to say that. You're not going to say, oh, this is the such and so family. It's just going to be, yeah, that's still AD Boo Corrigan. Somebody wants to give you $5 million to give you $5 million. You don't look a prize horse in the mouth, okay? I don't care who's giving the $5 million. I don't care where it's coming from, as long as the party giving it is not like 100% nefarious to where you're like, oh, wait, who? You take the money and move on.
Obviously, everything would be vetted, just like they vetted this one on Friday. But we also received a comment that I want to discuss here. I'll pull this up on the screen. It comes from Wolfpack NBA, and it says, I agree with you guys on the naming rights, but I just wanted to be a part of a revamp of our vision and plans to reach that vision. That includes getting out of dumb contracts with our coaches and leases with the Lenny. Moving men's basketball to the RBC and the Lenovo Center sucked the culture out of the program. We had a soul and an atmosphere at Reynolds. There, we had 16 conference championships. Since the move, we had just one. Obviously, this came this past season. It furthers the point. If you're willing to find people that are willing to pour money into the athletics program, you can potentially entertain conversations a lot more feasibly, like moving the team back to Reynolds if they renovate it, of course, or building another arena, which is a downsize from the Lenny, but much more intimate and a better atmosphere for men's college basketball, potentially in the future. If you raise more money, you can have those conversations a bit more seriously. I don't think this is something that would happen relatively anytime soon, but if you're routinely finding money and more money is dumping into this program, whether it's by revenue sharing renaming the rights of whatever it is at NC State, then and only then you can look at perhaps some coaching contracts that everyone has a hot seat for. If NC State has more money, perhaps they wouldn't have to wait and buy a coach out, so to speak. They can just move on it right away. Those are types of things that the bigger programs like the Texas A&Ms or the Ohio States, they can afford to do that kind of stuff. NC State is nowhere close, but inching in that direction by renaming things slowly, you'll start to see some progress.
Yeah, and I'll say this much. In terms of how aggressive you want to get with getting that future vision, I'm going to say something that may be a little controversial. Florida State and Clemson are wrong for their lawsuits. I understand it. I understand, like, hey, we can settle this thing and we can make something happen, because I look at the 99 years is insane, man. That's so insane. Like, how? Grace and I talked about this off air, but was there a moment where NC State brass believed, oh, we'll never be good again? Never. It's not in the cards for us. And here's the thing, Grayson. Detroit Lions fan here. Trust me, if anybody knows about a long time of not being good, I was born in 95 at the end of Barry Sanders' run, for real. Like, by the time I could form memories, Barry was retired. I had to watch Charlie Batch as my first memory of my favorite team's quarterback. And I knew at some point in time, we're going to be better than this. We got to be. No disrespect to Detroit Lions legend Charlie Batch, because he still got us to the playoffs, the first year of Barry's retirement. But I knew, like, it's going to get better than this eventually. It took forever, okay? It was not a short road. There was Steve Mariucci. There was Joey Harrington. There was John Kitna. There was Schwartz, Jim Schwartz somewhere in there. There was Matt Patricia. God, there was Matt. Oh, my God. But I always knew at some point we'll get better. At some point. How did this deal happen? Like, and I'm not being facetious at all when I say that. I would love to sit down with the people who made this decision and just have that conversation of, I have to be missing some context. I have to be not misunderstanding something to see, like, you agree any deal that lasts 100 years is a little too much. Because what under God's green earth else has lasted 100 years? People don't last that long. Well, I digress. It just, it's we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. And
let's get aggressive to keep going in that direction. That's all I'll say. If anybody says, hey, NC State is suing Lenovo Center, whoever built that building or whoever came up with, I wouldn't be mad at it one bit. I wouldn't be mad. Settle us down to 50. Because even that, it still would be what, till 2057? Like, that still feels like forever. So, that's just my thought there.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This is moving in the right direction for NC State. The naming rights have been approved for the AD position at NC State. The naming rights for Carter Finley are pretty surely soon to follow, but more on that when the time comes. That will do it for us here on Monday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to tell us what you think about Aziaha James and women's basketball at NC State on an absolute tear, 8 of their last 8 in a row. Men's basketball continues to limp through the back half of the schedule. One of these days, it will be enough to come out with the W, but until then, they're scratching and clawing for everything they can get. Anything else you have on your mind, drop that in the comment box as well. Mash that subscribe button. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Tuesday for more. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.